Hi, everybody. Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. This is a mess. I hope you're having a great night. I'm Nash. I've been doing Radio Dead Air for ages. But in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional, allegedly. And with me, as always, my producer, Mike Gehrman, who also works in IT. If you've got tech questions for me and Mike, please send those to request at radiodeadair.com. We'll try and put those on for you tonight. How you doing, Mike?
How's it going? Other than the latest technical difficulties.
Freaking
I'm gonna have to. I think I still have to disagree with you slightly on the detection thing in Windows versus NVIDIA. And the reason I say that, I reconnect this thing for every show and every raid. And when I updated my drivers when I had it on this computer, when I was using NVIDIA, it would be fine until I updated my drivers and they go, oh no, I've taken over. Even though you've just now plugged in another thing, I'm still going off NVIDIA. And when I switched to AMD on this computer, I haven't had that happen once. Windows has kept my defaults.
Well, speaking of Windows, it's been kind of a little bit of an issue coming up that Windows 10 is going to approach end of life in October of 2025. And the reason
it's a big issue at work.
And the reason why is Microsoft wants to sell new computers. That's it. That's the whole thing. The trouble is there are a lot of computers right now that are perfectly viable and could work with Windows 11, but because of some arbitrary decisions on Microsoft's part, it changed the program requirements and the system requirements so that a system that's older than 2017 cannot install or update to Windows 11. In some cases, it can't install it either.
Yeah. So, and this is a variety of things. This is CPU requirements, a TPM requirement, a secure boot requirement. There's probably a couple others, but those are the big three.
And they're pointless, honestly. They're really pointless. You can run the system
for many people, yes. Yes. I mean, okay, so TPM has its uses, but the idea that everyone needs TPM 2 on their OS is not really.
It's optional. It's entirely optional. So one thing that's become clear is we have lots of computers. If your computer can run Windows 10, it can run Windows 11. If your computer can run Windows 7, there's a good chance it can run Windows 11. Meaning that a lot of these very viable computers that are perfectly good, they still function. Some of them are even still capable of doing gaming and stuff. Like we're talking first generation Ryzen, we're talking first generation Threadripper, we're talking Intel 6000 and earlier series. All of these, just because they're 2017, which is technically not all that old in computer years, they're still viable systems. And because of this, people are saying, well, no, I'm not going to get rid of my system. I'm going to keep using it. And Microsoft is realizing, oh, crap, we're going to have we're going to have a whole bunch of people out there running computers with potential security exploits. And so,
and by the way, the reason that's a big deal, if you get enough computers with enough of those security exploits, you can have a leveraged platform that can cause all sorts of issues. And Microsoft doesn't want to be the guy being told that's your fault.
Yeah, so however, they are offering extended security updates for regular end users with a catch. You can pay them $30 for one additional year of security updates. Or you can sign up to Windows Backup and give them your Windows and sign up for a Microsoft account, which they have been desperate to get everybody to sign up for. Everybody needs to have a Microsoft account. And if you do that, they'll give you another year of security updates. Or And this is the one that really is so mind-bogglingly stupid. You can use Microsoft reward points, which also require you to sign up for a Microsoft account. So essentially,
Smash. Essentially, you're saying they can use multiple slurp juices to get a year of extended coverage?
Exactly. It's so, this is ridiculous, and Microsoft really I don't understand why they won't bend on this, because this will come back and bite them in the butt. People are not going to just, sign up for, and I really want to stress here, because I noticed when I was talking about this on Blue Sky, a lot of people completely misunderstood because they don't understand what a security exploit is. They mix that up with virus, and they're like, I've got antivirus. Why do I need security updates? Okay. Antivirus, Windows Defender, or any sort of anti-malware like Malwarebytes, that stops programs that come into your system through normal routes, executable files, or hidden little tricky things that launch when you launch other things, or anything that comes into the system that you download or you put on a USB disk. They come in the normal route.
Yes, and it's not just viruses, by the way. There's other kinds of malware. There's Trojans. There's, of course, other things like that that basically can leverage your computer and turn it into a platform to launch exploits on other things or attacks on other things.
So you have to consider it. Think of it like a castle, and viruses try to ram the front gates. That's what viruses do. Antiviruses stop them there. Exploits, on the other hand, think of it if you go around the edge of the castle, there's a hole in the wall down there, and you can probably squeeze your way through. Exploits can go around antivirus, anti-malware, even the base level stuff in Windows to protect the system, like administration rights and all of that. The right exploit can avoid entirely antivirus, meaning you can shove a virus through that way, and it will avoid or any other sort of malicious package. It will avoid your antivirus.
And we've talked about vulnerabilities before. There's been some big vulnerabilities we've mentioned. For example, the reason Intel is going away from hyper-threading is because it's so very hard to secure against vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. Because there's this class of people out there. There's two classes of people out there who are very interested in vulnerabilities: people who want to exploit them, and researchers. And sometimes there's a little bit of crossover. And the researchers are not going to stop researching, because the people searching for exploits aren't going to stop. And so the researchers say, we got to find out what these things are first so they can be fixed, so we can, have better computing environments for everyone.
And that's what Microsoft security updates do. They get those security reports from researchers. They get them from bug bounties, people who like, hey, I found a bug. I'll tell Microsoft. Microsoft pays them. These are constantly evolving. People find new exploits and new things all the time. And Microsoft, they get word of it. They're like, okay, we'll fix this. We'll put out a security update, and exploits taken care of. And that's why you need to keep your those updated as often as possible.
And you may see this as well. You may see the occasional story. I think we've covered a couple like this, where a researcher comes out and says, so I told this company about this vulnerability in their software a year ago. They've refused to acknowledge my emails, and they haven't fixed it. So now I'm going public. And suddenly that company goes, oh yeah, we're gonna fix that. It's gonna be done soon.
Now, the reason why Microsoft is willing to extend security for a year, because people are not a large chunk of people are not upgrading to Windows 11, is if all of these systems stay on the internet, all of these Windows 10 systems, thousands of them, without security updates, and a big enough exploit happens that we get something like WannaCry. Remember WannaCry? the ransomware shit.
Yep.
Something like that. Something big hits, and it can be bad for the computers it gets hits, or maybe it uses those computers as platforms to attack other systems. Big bad shit, folks. And Microsoft realizes if we don't offer security updates, we could be held responsible for them. If not legally, then at least in the public perception that we are responsible for these exploits, and Windows will be seen as insecure, even though we're trying to retire this version of Windows. And so this is Microsoft saying, well, here's a way to do it. Now, the way they're doing it is they're leaving the responsibility ultimately on the end user. They're saying, well, you can do this if you go through these steps, and it's free. Sure, you have to give us your information, but it's free. Why don't you do it? Why don't you make a Microsoft account? It's free. And by saying if people don't do it, that it's free, big air quotes, asterisk, if people don't do it, then it's on the end user as responsible, not Microsoft.
Which may or may not stop Microsoft from getting sued on the next big exploit. You remember the one last year where all the airlines went down for a few days?
Yeah, well, that wasn't Windows, but it was Microsoft's response. It was their Azure stuff, and
but Microsoft is being sued over it.
Oh yeah, they are. I understand why Microsoft, aside from the trying to push people to force them to upgrade their computers, I know why Microsoft wants everybody on Windows 11. It is easier to support a single operating system than to try to support Windows 11 and then Windows 10, because while they are fundamentally at the bare core the same, they have enough different bits here and there to make exceptions in one that won't apply to the other. So you have to support two different operating systems, and it takes extra money, extra time. If they can stop supporting Windows 10, it saves them a lot of money.
Yeah, and it means they can cut down their in-house testing, which is already cut pretty low to begin with, even more.
So, and they want to focus this all on Windows 11. The trouble is, computers are more expensive right now than they have been in ages. Between the inflation, between tariffs, between all sorts of ridiculous nonsense, it's bad. So people have their motivation to upgrade is just, it's terrible. They're not going to do it. What? I thought you said something. All right.
I said it was low.
Yeah, it's low. So
the only people who are upgrading right now are the people who have to. Your computer died. It's not recoverable. Oh, I need to buy a new computer. Oh, it comes with Windows 11. There we go.
So it's, that's rough. I don't know how all this has worked, but this is stupid. You shouldn't sign up for a Microsoft account. Honestly, you don't need to. There are ways to get around it if you want to use Windows. The whole push for the Microsoft account
only
is
reason
another
I have
really suspicious thing.
Yeah, the only reason I have one is because I basically got Office for sort of almost free through work, but you have to have an email account tied to it to activate the installation. And I'm like,
Well, speaking of other ripoffs, NVIDIA has finally announced and confirmed the existence of the RTX 5050, otherwise known as the RTX half and half. It's half bad and half awful.
I'm not going to lie, Nash. I feel like RTX 5050 should be announced like it is a monster truck event at the local fairgrounds. The RTX 5050! Because it is a lot of hype over something that is not fun for most people.
this card is terrible. Let's start off right. It's going to be $250, and at $250, it is terrible. Gamers Nexus did a wonderful video highlighting a lot of reasons why. For one thing, this is not a 50 class card. It's one of the 50 class, the 1650, all the way, the older cards at the 50 class. One of the hallmarks for the 50 class is a 75 watt TDP. And why that's important is that's a card that does not require external power. It gets all its power through the PCIe slot. That means this is a card, the 50 series cards could fit in a lot of systems that otherwise would not be able to use a gaming card. And so this
no longer
one
the case here.
Yeah, this one is disqualified from that because it's on 100. It's a 130 watt TDP. So this requires an 8-pin PCIe connector. Cannot run passively. I mean, there were some that could run passively with if you did it right, which means the chances of a low profile on this are not great.
Nope.
8 gigabytes of GDDR6, which honestly is not the worst thing for this price range. 8 gigabytes, okay. However, you look over at Intel, they have the A750. Let's see, have the A750. How's that? That's got 8 gigabytes too. All right. But they've got the other cards in this price range are the A750, which is down to 175, and the 7600 from AMD. Yeah, so Radeon RX 7600. And that is down to, let's see, where is it? That's sitting at around, if you get it at the right place, about 279. I see one there. Yeah, so that's it's close to this.
The Intel Arc B580 is not too much more, and has half again the RAM.
Yeah, it's got 10 gigs of RAM instead. In terms of CUDA cores, this has got some of the low, enough to make it kind of pointless. It has RTX. It can do ray tracing, except it really can't. One of the limiting factors on ray tracing is RAM, VRAM on the card, and another limiting factor is how much extra the computer's trying to do while doing that ray tracing. If you turn ray tracing on this card, even at 1080p, even with DLSS, it's going to chug.
And struggle.
It's a pointless feature at this price range. And a lot of people say it's a pointless feature, period, depending. But this is an insult of a card. I would not recommend anybody get this. You could be better off buying a used card for the same amount of money. You can get right now a 2080 Ti, an RTX 3080, and similar AMD is 6800, I think. Much more powerful cards with a lot more RAM for about the same money used, and they'll be way more powerful than this piece of crap. Even though they're a little bit old. I mean, even the 3080 is a little bit old. It's still way more powerful than this piece of crap. And the only thing you'll be missing out on is stuff like DLSS 3 or the frame generation stuff, and it's terrible. This is NVIDIA saying we don't have to care anymore. And that's bad when they command something like 90% of the graphics card market. The rest is mostly AMD with a teeny. I don't even think Intel registers right now yet. It's a bad situation.
Their name might be on the graph, and there you go. It's depending on your screen resolution, there might be a pixel there.
Yeah. So this is just, I can't believe they even bothered with this. Is, I mean, you can get a 5060 for $300, and the 5060 is so much better in so many ways that this thing is just pointless at $250. Like at Drake says you're enjoying the B580. I mean, yeah, the Battle Mage cards aren't bad, but for this price range, buy something used. Not only that, it means NVIDIA loses a sale because NVIDIA doesn't get any money off a used sale, and you keep a card in the functioning for a while longer, and that's less e-waste. This is crap. I don't even know what's going on. It's crap. It's crap. Anyway, let's see. Trying it. My windows are a lot of it. There we go. We'll have to see when it actually gets released and we see the performance, the benchmarks on it. But I don't hold your breath. This is going to be. In fact, that reminds me. This year for the holiday build, for the holiday build guides, I have decided to add a new category. We are going to have a used build. We're going to see what we can do.
So that's tricky.
What?
And the reason that's tricky, I'm not. I don't have a problem with it. It's tricky because how are we going to do that? Because if I go, I found this great card on eBay, but by the time the episode rolls around, it's been sold.
Well, yeah, but you'll still have the link to it. You'll still have the price it went for. This is to give people an idea of what you can get in a specific price range, not go out and get that specific part. You're not going to get that auction, but you're going to see what you can buy for your money in the used price range and what we recommend used in that price range to save you some money and get a viable system that's still, functional. So we'll do that.
The only thing I'm going to say about that, used except for drives.
Oh yeah, used drives are never do that. Never ever do a used hard drive. Even if it's somebody used hard drives, it's always iffy because they're never used hard drive. Last bit of information tonight. This is interesting. The HDMI 2.2 standard is out. 96 gigabytes maximum bandwidth on HDMI, and it supports 16K. What? We don't even have graphic cards that can handle 16K yet. No. I'm sure you could.
So what I feel 16K is for dedicated high-end business meeting rooms where you go, we have the 16K monitor in here that is fed from a specialized unit that's in the wall, and it looks great, and this is what IT spent the budget on this year when they'd rather have upgraded people's computers.
It's on the good news is you're like, well, why in the world would anyone have all of this bandwidth? What you can use this for is improving the image quality of the lower levels. Like, for example, you can have 4K resolution at 144 frames per second, 10-bit, in some cases up to 12-bit, which improves, the overall presentation of it. So increase in bandwidth is not simply for an increase in resolution. It can be used to improve lower levels of resolution on things. But I mean, I don't even think there's any cards that officially support it. There might be.
We're not going to see a card that supports that for at least a year.
They'd have to update their drivers or something. Of course, it's going to also require a physical card that has the 2.2 standard built in.
That's it's a long lead item in production is the physical production of the cards.
And you know what this means? Another cable standard for HDMI. One of the things that drives us nuts. Higher bandwidth standards require better wiring and better cables. And that's why we have HDMI 2.1 cables that can do stuff like 8K or 4K, 144 frames per second, all that. But if you try and just grab a regular HDMI cable out of the junk drawer and plug it in, if you're not sure what standard it is, it might not work at the resolution you want it to, because it's all how the cable is built. So now we're going to have 2.2 cables, and you're going to have to make sure you get an HDMI 2.2 cable to run.
They're gonna be very clearly labeled. So sooner or later, this news will hit my work, and someone will ask, "When can I get an HDMI 2.2 monitor?" I'm going to go, "They don't make them yet." When can I get when can I get one? You're not important enough to get one. I'm going to say it to anyone who doesn't have a door, and a couple of the people who do.
Well, regardless, I mean, just because a new standard is, we have a standard for USB 5. There is a standard for it. Nobody's using it. There's anything built for it yet, but the standard exists. It's probably being edited and updated, but it's there. You can't say, I want something USB 5. Too bad. It doesn't exist. Just because somebody has it on paper, you know.
Yeah, I suspect what will be asked for first is to go, my monitor's not as crisp as it could be. Can you get me a an HDMI 2.2 cable to see if that improves it? I'm like, no. It won't.
It won't. So yeah, the cable, just a little hint here.
The cable is supposed to have Ultra 96 branding. Now, every reputable cable dealer, when they make these cables, will brand them, and there will be plenty of unreputable cable dealers that will sell them really cheap on Amazon or on other sites, and it'll say, oh yeah, HDMI 2.2, but it won't be. So please do check carefully in what you're buying.
Also, I love the branding is, instead of being HDMI 2.2 branded, it's going to be Ultra 96 branded. That won't be confusing at all, will it? Because we have cables branded HDMI 2.1, 1.4, but now it's Ultra 96. What the hell?
I'll just tell everyone that we don't have any Ultra 96 monitors in yet. Sorry. I think I can probably pull that off for 7 more years until I retire.
And also, one of the things I was trying to say is, while having a proper cable for your bandwidth and resolution will increase the stability and make sure your monitor doesn't blink out and you don't lose your picture, it's not going to improve the picture quality. Digital is digital is digital. If the setting is if it won't run the setting, you can't, it's not going to make it, it's so much crisper and better. No, that same setting between two cables, wires is wires, digital is digital. It's not going to get any, Anyway.
The one thing I did like about this is that they've improved they've added latency indication protocol, which will help sync up audio and video better. So,
all right. Now it's time for your questions. If you've got one, we still have a little room. Let's see. I don't think we have anything new tonight. No, just saying we got the ones we already have. Some of these are YouTube comments. You can also get our get question to us in the comment section of the YouTube. So we'll add those there. The first one's from Vet Gaming. Have a question about why do you need different fan blades for pushing or pulling? My previous, and the CPU cooler before that all had push-pull dual fan modules, and all of them have identical fans on the push and pull side. Just one side has fan hub spokes mounted at the heatsink for pushing, and the other has fan hub spokes away. Some of my non-computer DIY shenanigans, I've used identical fans regardless if they were for push or pull, though I never knew there were special pull fans existed. Okay, well, that reverse blade fans, reverse blade fans are fairly new. Up until now, that hadn't been a thing. People had just been like, well, if you need it that way, flip the fan around. And people were just like, well, I guess that's what we'll have to do, flip the fan around. It wasn't until a few manufacturers started offering, I think Lee and Lee started offering reverse blade, and then Fantex did, and now Be Quiet has reverse blade, and I'm pretty sure Corsair finally stepped into it, although theirs aren't very good.
Everyone's jumping in it. Basically, you don't need it. It makes things slightly more efficient, is what it is.
Yeah. The reverse blade can be, depending on the application, depending on the rating of it, can be more efficient. And the efficiency, the better it is at moving air at a high rate, means it's better at a lower rate too. So mainly the efficiency is to get you a quieter fan and a quieter system. Also, if you ramp it up, if you really need the extra cooling ability, that's an option too.
The other big reason for it is because with LED fans, of course, being the big thing, if you had it that way, half of your LEDs are hidden.
Yeah,
they're up against something.
That's when they started taking off, because the aesthetics of it. Some people want to build a system that looks good and a showpiece system, and you don't want the fans flipped around backwards because they look bad like that.
Yeah.
So
Nash, I'm going to say that I don't think anyone wants to build a system that looks bad except Dell.
So having a look at like the rear of the fan inside the system, that kind of people don't like it. It doesn't look as clean. It doesn't look as professional. So having a reverse blade gets around it. You don't strictly need reverse blade fans. They can be better, but then sometimes you could find a regular blade fan that even reversed works better than a reverse blade fan. It's all in the design. I'm pretty sure Noctawood works fine either way you use it because they've designed the hell out of those things. Also, I don't want to put a Noctawood fan in my system because they're ugly as hell. It's a kid aesthetics thing.
They've started coming out with some models that are not brown, but we'll see.
And as far as push pull and reverse, having the air sucked into the system or pushed into the system, depending on where you put the fan, whether Megamade goes from suck to blow, it's all a question of what's best for the application. Like, for example, getting air into your system, you want that to be fans to be pulling air in. So you want the fan blades, the front of the fan facing out and pulling the air in. You want the air exhausting out the back and the top, typically on a typical case. You want the air going out the back at the top. My case isn't typical because it's weirdly constructed. So I have air coming in the front and the rear and exhausting out the top. Another thing to keep in consideration is you kind of want to try and balance the amount of air coming in to the air going out. Unless you're going for a negative or a positive pressure, with that case, you have more air going in than going out, or you have more air going out than coming in. It's all, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but bottom line, the reverse blade fans are not strictly necessary. It's all down to the specifications of the individual fan for how they're going to perform. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you could have a push pull on your air cooler and put a reverse blade fan on one side and a front blade fan on the other. Make sure they're the same model and they match up roughly. And yeah, you could do that if you wanted. It would probably look pretty neat, but it's mainly about looks at that point. This is from Sir Jedi Sentinel. Question about the Facebook story. Seems like Facebook comes pre-installed on most Android. Unlike other pre-installed apps, you can't uninstall Facebook. In that instance, is force stopping or disabling Facebook enough? That depends.
I've not had a problem ever uninstalling Facebook. I'm going to say I'm not having a problem uninstalling Facebook. I checked my phone in prep for this because I got off Facebook a while back and I installed it off this phone. So unless Facebook has specifically paid the company, the phone or the service company to make it a uninstallable app, it should be uninstallable. But if it's not, you can get into debug mode without even reading the phone and uninstall it that way.
Well, what's happening is a lot of manufacturers. This was more in the past. It's not as prevalent these days, but you have manufacturers and also service providers like you have Samsung or AT&T. When a phone was set to be added to their network, they would look at the ROM, the software that was included on the phone, hard coded into the firmware, or at least flashed into the memory and ready for it. They would look at the ROM and say, okay, if you're going to put this on our network, or if we're going to sell this phone, you can pay us to include your app in this setup, and we'll make it so the user can't remove it. Which is why when Sprint still existed, and in the earlier days of Android, I had a damn NASCAR app on my fucking phone that I could never fucking uninstall. Taking up space, eating up valuable. Like at that point, you have like NFL app. Yeah, you would have apps on your system that were eating up your system memory that you could have put stuff you wanted on there with it, and you couldn't because you had these stupid apps on there. And the way the ROM was designed, because most phones don't give you root access, most phones don't allow the user to mess around with it as much, you were stuck with whatever was on there. I will say Google and their Pixel phones have made a good practice of allowing you to uninstall just about anything, unless it's system required. Like you'd be deleting system files and whatnot. You can pretty much uninstall anything from a Pixel phone. As far as this one, if it's not letting you do it, you don't mention what model phone this is, so I don't know what debug mode. If they could, would they be allowed?
It should be allowed. If you can get into USB developer mode, then you can basically uninstall things, including things you're not really shouldn't uninstall, like updates. But it is possible. I haven't tried it on my phone today. I'll be honest about that.
Will you tell folks how to get in debug mode?
Okay, so supposedly, now, what was this article? Supposedly, you go to settings about the device and tap the build number 7 times to make settings developer options available, and then enable USB debugging. And then you basically need to Google on how you turn off or uninstall apps that it otherwise doesn't let you uninstall, because it might vary from model to model a little bit.
So yeah, it's changed a lot. This is why I've kind of stuck with Pixel phones, despite Google. I've stuck with them because I have the most control over it out of the box. If I really wanted to get into custom ROMs and screwing around with my phone all the time to get it to do stuff, I could. But there's a limit to what I'm going to block off, and like I block off a lot of the AI stuff and other. There's a limit to what I'm going to screw around with on my phone, because I just want the freaking phone to work. And they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy. All right. Hippo hams. Now this is just a follow up on we're talking about that game someone was trying to run on Linux that was required. They were trying to use the emulator and it wouldn't work with the swapping of disks. Hippoham says, as for wine, I found and learned that it depends on the versions of wine you have installed. Older games require older wine versions, as each newer wine version aims at newer games. That sounds crazy. So you have to find the right wine major version. I don't think every version is all that different. There's probably a bash script that can be made to pause wine between disk swaps. That's a whole other beast. Yeah, there are some things that, even though it's wine, it's open source, it's Windows, that sounds inaccurate. Probably is. That's probably, that doesn't sound quite right. But even though
I would think it would be backwards compatible, it would have some sort of detection capability going, oh, this needs this version of wine, and
You've been using it a
and
long
wine goes
time, never
okay.
had to downgrade yet, Drake. One of the things about open source software, just because it's open source doesn't mean that it will cover every use case. Now, companies,
Indeed.
a lot of companies that you submit a bug report and it's not a widespread use case, but it's enough that they will fix it. Like, it depends on the company. It depends on if enough users are impacted by it. But for Linux, you'd have to, considering these people aren't getting paid for it some of the time. I mean, some open source is paid software, but a lot of it isn't. It's just people in their own time adding and adjusting code and whatnot. You have to hope they're going to cover your specific
everything they're doing.
Yeah, you just have to hope they cover your specific use case. Well, I mean, some projects require documentation, or you can't work on the project.
Yeah,
it's not like just for free for all. Some people can say no, I don't want you working on this, and then you can fork it yourself and work on it. But just trying to, that whole disk swapping thing is such a niche case that I'm not even sure anyone even considered it, considering disks are effectively obsolete. We still use them, but they're old technology.
I mean, I would think it would have come up in the wine community before, but I don't know if it would have come up with enough frequency or enough urgency for them to go, yeah, let's figure out how to do this.
All right. Next question. This is from Jamie. They say, hey, Nash and Mike, with you talking about Windows 10 and end of life on Blue Sky, can you walk me through how I can get Windows 11 on my system instead? You said there was a way, but I need some instructions. Current system is an Acer Nitro with an i5 9300H and a GTX 1650. It can handle Windows 11, right? Well, first of all, you shouldn't need okay, well, it depends on what the problem is with your system. In fact, you have a 9300 CPU, which is after the cutoff for Windows 11. So in theory, you should have a system that is capable of installing Windows 11. The biggest
TPM thing.
Yeah, the biggest sticking point for people who have systems that would otherwise be compatible with Windows 11, but the update installer says, nope, can't install it. There are two big hangups for that. One of them is GPT and MBR. It's how your Windows was installed. If you use a GPT format or MBR format. Now it's a long explanation of what that is, but basically it's just how the hard drive was formatted when it was created. GPT is more common now. It's kind of a default standard, not just for Linux, but across the industry. But master boot record, MBR, was used for a long time. And Windows 11, yeah, you can't just update to Windows 11 if you're using MBR and GPT. That's causing a mess. The other issue is what Mike was saying about the TPM, the Trusted Platform Module. That's a part of your CPU. And what you have to do is you have to go into the BIOS, find that setting, and turn it on. And when I say find that setting, it's because every single manufacturer, Dell, HP, MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, everybody has their own flippin' BIOS. A lot of them look similar. A lot of them are manufactured by the same company, like American Megatrends, and I don't know if Phoenix is even still around, but a lot of the same companies write the software, but every company says, I want it this way. There is no standard. There is nothing that says all stuff has to be in this menu, and this menu, and this. Every single BIOS, even BIOSes within the same manufacturing line, can be completely flipping different. Like the Asus Prime BIOS looks totally different than the Republic of Gaming BIOS. And they're both Asus. And you can have like an X670 Prime motherboard and an X670 Republic of Gaming motherboard, and they'll have two completely different BIOSes on them. Why they do this, I don't know. It's irritating as hell.
So you'll have to look at how to turn that on. Now, there are ways to convert, as Nash mentioned, the master boot record versus GUID partition. There are ways to convert from one to the other without having to reinstall. It's tricky if you decide to go that route. If you have to go that route, rather, back up your data first. Because sometimes it says, oh, yeah, you can do this without data loss. Oh, I lost the data.
The best I can tell you is if you need to turn on the TPM setting, you're going to have to find out, look in your system's manual or your motherboard's manual, how to get into the BIOS. Then you're going to have to poke around and look for a setting that's either TPM, or if it's AMD, you're looking for FTPM. It's the same thing. They just give it a different name. Where it will be is anyone's guess. What setting it's under, what location they put it, anybody's guess.
Your best bet on this is when you get into the BIOS, have your phone handy. And when you're in the BIOS, look at what it says the BIOS is, because it usually has a splash screen on this, or a header or something that says, this is the BIOS we're using. And you plug that in to the search engine of your choice, not Bing, and say, where's TPM in this? And it'll tell you, usually with a pretty good degree of accuracy.
Now, just to cover all the bases here, if you are using a system that is older than this, if you're using like an Intel, I believe Intel 6000 or older, Ryzen first generation or older, Threadripper first generation or older, if you're using one of those CPUs,
or you somehow using a newer CPU, but with an older motherboard that doesn't have TPM at all.
Well, the newer CPUs have TPM built into the CPU. It's not a motherboard issue.
I still have the brain issue where we had TPM on the chip on the motherboard. Sorry.
Yeah. If your system doesn't, if you have one of those older CPUs that is not eligible, you can still install Windows 11 on your system. However, you cannot upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11. If you want Windows 11 on one of those older systems, you're going to have to wipe it and start over. You're going to have to start from scratch, and you have to make the installation media a special way. And I'll show you how you're here now. Here are the steps you're going to have to do for this, okay? First thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the Download Windows 11 on Microsoft's website. Just look for Windows 11 download. And this has the installation assistant, create media. But what you're going to do, you're going to go to the very bottom and download Windows 11 disk image. That's what you're looking for. Typically, the only one that there is multi-edition ISO for x64 devices. Oh, and yeah, before that, you're going to make sure you have your Windows 10 product key. Because the Windows 10 product key will work to activate Windows 11. It'll just boom, there you go. It's fine. It's effectively a Windows 11 product key. There's no difference if it works for Windows 10. So you can get your Windows 10 product key. If you don't know where to look for it, where is it? Magic Jelly Bean. Key finder. Yeah. Don't ask me why it's called this. There is a free software called Magical Jelly Bean Key Finder. It's absolutely free. You can install it. It will tell you what your Windows 10 product key is. So you have your product key, download the ISO from the Microsoft website. That's the image for making the install. You'll need at least an 8 gigabyte USB stick, 8 gigabyte or larger. And
they say 64 on some sites. Which means, sorry, smaller than 64. Sorry.
Well, at least 8 gigabyte to install for this. Then you're going to need another program. It's called Rufus, also free. And this is what it's. You can find it at rufus.ie. That's the website. I don't know why. And it's going to look like this. This is the standard install thing for Rufus. You're going to set the image option to standard Windows installation, like it says on the screen there. You'll pick the ISO, the file you downloaded from boot selection. You'll pick the file you downloaded from Microsoft's website. And when you hit the start button to begin making your installation media, you'll have your Windows, you have your 8 gigabyte USB stick plugged into your system. These options will pop up. Remove the requirement for 4 gigs plus RAM, secure boot, and TPM 2.0. You check that and you disable data collection, local account use. You can set it all up to bypass all of Windows 11's crap. That's under Windows user experience. This will allow you to make an installer that will install Windows 11 on anything. Doesn't matter how old it is, it will install Windows 11. It will still get Windows 11 updates as well. You won't be locked out of the updates. They're perfect. It's perfectly legit. Copies will work. It's just doesn't have that secure boot crap on it that's stopping it from working with other systems. And yeah, you will have to either install it alongside Windows 10, which is an option, or you're going to have to erase Windows 10 and install it from scratch. But you cannot upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11 on the older hardware. You can reinstall Windows 11. Why? Because Microsoft hates you. They personally hate you. They searched your name on the internet. They looked up where you live, what you do for a living. They know your phone number, and they hate you. That's their job. They hate you now.
Yes, you, Gary. We're talking about you.
Yes, Microsoft hates you. That's why it's like this. It's all your fault.
Gary was not the one who asked the question.
Yeah. As for your Acer Nitro, it is probably likely the BIOS issue, because before this, manufacturers didn't turn on the TPM. There was nobody used it, so they didn't bother turning it on. Now it's turned on by default on new systems, but on older systems, nobody bothered. So
yeah, when I was doing a Windows 11 check on this older machine, when I was thinking about it at the time, the initial Microsoft app just said, no, you failed. And there was another app someone else made which gave details on why you failed. And I wish I kept the link for that app, because it told you everything that was said. No, this is why. And it goes, oh, you can do it basically. You need to go under BIOS and turn on TPM. Oh, okay. Hey, look, I passed.
Okay, last one tonight. This is from Christy. They write, hi, Nash and Mike. My friend needs some help. He spilled a soda inside his computer. The soda was on top of the computer, and I have told him this was stupid. You are correct. Yes. He shut it off at the power switch as soon as it happened and has been using his laptop since Wednesday. What does he need to do to make sure the system is okay? I love all the cats, Christy. Okay.
Well, I would start with prayer.
Well, you turn it off. He turned it off immediately. That was an excellent instinct. Yes. You are going to have, this is going to suck so much. This is going to suck. So you're going to have to disassemble that system. You're going to have to take, it's a desktop, which is good news. I think it's a desktop. I mean, I don't know how you'd have the soda on top of the, I don't know how you have the soda on top of the computer.
And they did say, been using his laptop since Wednesday. So I'm going to assume, because they didn't say other laptop.
You're going to have to take
supplies you're going to want. Include isopropyl alcohol, the good stuff, the 90-something%.
Mm-hmm. You're going to want, also, in addition to that, you're going to want some coffee filters for lint-free cloths. You're going to want a soft bristle toothbrush you don't want anymore.
or a new soft bristle toothbrush that you're going to use specifically for this. I mean, personally, I would get a new one just so you don't have any residue on the toothbrush that you might be concerned about. And I'm going to give you my upfront warning right now. Do not scrub hard on anything because of surface mount components.
Right. Just when you use a toothbrush on electronics, you want to just use the weight of the toothbrush itself. Don't push down. Just, there you go. There you go. Just carefully let the weight of the toothbrush be the only weight that you're using to scrub with. You're going to have to take the system apart. Maybe not completely, but you're going to have to open it up. You're probably going to want to remove the motherboard from the case. If it's a proprietary, you don't mention the model here. So if it's a proprietary case, you're going to have to look up how to take it out. And that's something like a Dell and HP. It might be one that's not standard. If it's a, depending on the pre-built, if it's a standard ATX motherboard, you can also look up how to take that out. You'll have to unplug all the connectors on it. Take a picture before you do, because it will show you where everything goes back when you're done.
I would say picture and notes.
Yeah. Now this is something most repair people won't do, because it's one of those they can't guarantee it's going to fix it. This is one you're kind of left up to yourself to do. So I don't know. Some repair people might be willing to do this because it's not sure. There's no guarantee this is absolutely going to fix it. This is your best chance. Once you get the system open, look for everywhere the liquid may have touched. Okay? That's why taking it apart is important, because liquid is insidious and it can get places you can't see it readily. That includes, I would specifically double check the power supply. That's the box with the fan on it, that all the wires are coming out of. Double check that something hasn't gotten in there. And this is one, if liquid has gotten inside the power supply, you're getting a new power supply. Plain and simple. That's just the end of the day. The rest of it, find wherever the soda is, depending on how much got in there. And you're going to have to use the 90%. I keep calling it 90 proof. You don't drink it. It's percent. 90% isopropyl alcohol and that toothbrush and the coffee filters to get the crap off of it. You're just going to have to scrub away any of the residue of the liquid as much as you can find wherever you can find it. In fact, if it were me, I would douse it on the motherboard as much as possible. Just let it run other stuff, let it flush out areas, clean it out. And you're probably going to have to remove the CPU, and you're going to have to repaste you might want to look up a guide on how to disassemble a computer, because this is going to be a lot of work. The reason you use isopropyl alcohol is it evaporates quickly. But even still, after you've done this elaborate way of cleaning all this crap out of your system, you're going to have to leave it alone for at least 3 days. Okay? At least. That makes sure, absolutely certain, that it has gotten all the liquid has dried, and put it in some place that will encourage drying. Like get someplace like a windowsill, or just someplace where the air can get to it, because you want that stuff to evaporate completely. It won't leave any residue. So that's why, because it's why you don't use water, because water can have trace stuff that can be conductive. Isopropyl alcohol, once it has evaporated all the way, should not leave any conductive elements behind. Once you have it completely cleaned out, you have to put it all back together, and then it might work again. Considering you turned it off, he turned it off quickly. You're probably in good shape on that regard. It doesn't sound like anything got damaged, but if you turn it back on and it still has crap in certain places, it can cause damage. So try to be as thorough as possible. Understand this might be lost cause. I would also try to start it up piece by piece. Start it up, let's say, with just motherboard and CPU. Then add the RAM. Then add the video card. Then plug in the drives. Don't do it all at once because you're going to wait. If something goes out, it might take something else with it. This way, if something's bad, you can save as much as possible that's still working.
A tool that might, I've not used one in this way before, but a coworker just suggested this last week, be helpful in this, is a UV flashlight, because you can sit there and look and see differences in patterns and go, oh, look, I missed something here. There's more of a there's something reflecting under UV that is I'm not seeing with normal light.
That makes sense. Hold on a second. Why did that? Apparently something in my dashboard settings, people know they've been getting a lot of ads. Yeah, apparently my ad settings turned itself back. No. Turn those down. Sorry about that, folks. I'm sorry that you're getting ads on Twitch. I normally have it set it to 1 per hour because that's the lowest I can do it. They don't let you turn them off unless you're a subscriber, but I'm sorry about that. I was not aware of that. All right. Anyway. Well, you should be, Drake, you should be getting ads. You should not be getting them more than once an hour. That's the setting. I don't get that much ad revenue off of the, I don't get much ad revenue at all, so I don't bother doing it because it just irritates y'all. So I turn it down as much as possible. Anyway, let me dismiss that. No ad break. No, go away. Go away. All right. Well, that's all the questions we have for this week. If you have tech questions for me and Mike, you send those to requests@radiodeadair.com or put it in the comments of the YouTube section, and we will be happy to help you out with it best we can. In the meanwhile, for Mike and myself, we'll see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody. Good night.